So while I was still working on my last video talking about why I pre-ordered the M4 Mac Mini, sure enough the Mac Mini arrived and I couldn't be happier just like unboxing it. I quickly ran outside, grabbed it, brought it here, unboxed it because, it reminded me of when Apple does the Apple thing to where they take something special and make it even much more better. So the first thing that stands out as soon as you unbox the M4 Mac Mini is its size. Now it was reported in all the rumors and everything that it was going to be the size of the Apple TV. It's bigger than that, 5 by 5 inches, but this machine is tiny. And just to think about how powerful this machine is and what it is capable of doing in such a small form factor, when I did the mini reviews, like of the 12 mini and the 13 mini, I stated that those phones were like having a fun-sized candy bar packed with all the calories and all the flavor. Well, looks like we have a fun-sized Mac. So as I stated in my previous video, this Mac Mini is the base model. So you're either going to be paying $600 or $500 if you are a student and you can take advantage of that student discount, which is just amazing. And one of the beautiful things about having a computer like this is the fact that you can change your monitor, you can change your keyboard, your trackpad, all your peripherals, right? Like for example, for me, it was as simple as just plugging it in and I was ready to go. Now this desk setup for me is where I used my M1 Pro MacBook Pro. So I'd connect it here when I wanted to do work at this desk and then take it with me when I wanted to be free of this space. And one of the things that I appreciated right away is the fact that how many ports this thing has. You have the HDMI, then you've got 3 Thunderbolt 4, which can be Thunderbolt 5 if you get the M4 Pro. But I have the base model, so I've got 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports and they are more than enough for me. Actually, what I really like about this is that I have a printer, I have this microphone that's up here, so all of that stuff is directly plugged in with my MacBook. When I had to record these YouTube videos, I would always have to take off the printer or take off something else and then plug in the microphone, which kind of got annoying, but I just dealt with it because I didn't want to just buy a dock for just one more port. But this has more than enough ports to handle everything. Now, the one port I wish that this did have is an SD card slot because I use a camera to film these YouTube videos and just being able to take the SD card out of the camera, put it into the MacBook Pro, that just makes the whole process easy. But that's a simple fix that I can get. Just a USB-C to SD card reader and I won't have that issue anymore. But other than that, you've got the HDMI port, you've also got the Ethernet port. I'm actually running this on Wi-Fi, so I have a Wi-Fi 6 system in my house. It's a mesh router by Google and it works perfectly fine for me. And that is also another place where I think they should have added Wi-Fi 7 because, it would have just updated it much like they did with the iPhones. And that would have been great because this is one of those machines that you buy and you keep for several years. So having Wi-Fi 7, even though I don't have a Wi-Fi 7 system, it would have been a nice addition. But again, this is not a deal breaker by any means. Lastly, this does have a headphone jack at the front. I know for some people that kind of sucks because they do like plugging in speakers like at the backside. So having the port at the backside would have been more convenient for them. But for me personally, it doesn't bother me. As for the performance side of things, I have yet to hear the fan on this. What's funny is that I have a light right over here, which is, I use it as like a fill light for just this space. And what's funny is that the fan kicks on for that light even at such a low setting. But I have yet to hear the fan go off on this, even as I was playing with Final Cut, exporting projects, just kind of playing around with different things, Adobe Lightroom. And in Final Cut Pro, the footage that comes from my camera is S-Log3. So it's a Sony camera, log footage in 4K. So it's pretty great test. That's what I do on my M1 Pro. And I have to run the projects in better performance because if I run them in better quality, if not initially, ultimately I do get a bit of stuttering going on. So I always run it in better performance on the MacBook Pro. Whereas here, I ran it in better quality and I didn't have to worry about switching back because it's that fast and snappy. Now, as for like exporting videos, there's not a big difference between the amount of time that it takes on the M1 Pro versus the M4 Mac Mini, but you can definitely notice it in terms of just working on the timeline itself. I want to give you one example as to why performance is going to be so much better on this Mac Mini compared to like my laptop, for instance. If you were to take the same exact chip, same configuration, and you put it in the body of a 13-inch MacBook Air, then a 14-inch MacBook Pro, then a 16-inch MacBook Pro, and then obviously the Mac Mini. Now, each of these have the same exact chip with the same configuration. But why would the Mac Mini be faster? Well, simply because it has more room to work with. So Apple already put everything on one chip, right? Which improved efficiency. But now that same chip in a MacBook Air only has so much space to work with. So as it works harder and harder, it's not going to cool as fast. And when heat becomes a play, that's when the chip tends to tone down. And that's basically what you call like throttling, right? The CPU starts to throttle down, and that's when you notice like a little bit of the spinning circles or slow performance. But then the same chip in a 14-inch MacBook Pro has more space to work with and a fan. Then a 16-inch has more space to work with, and then the Mac Mini has more space to work with. On top of that, you've got like this ventilation system. You've got the intake of the air coming in, cooling the chip, and then it's going out the backside. Now, to better understand this, it's the same thing as if I asked you to do a bunch of jumping jacks until you were completely exhausted in a very small room, and then a bigger room, and then a bigger room with maybe air conditioning. Obviously, the room with air conditioning is going to give you the best performance because you're going to be able to stay cooler longer, right? This is why our bodies begin to sweat, and this is how your body keeps you cool so that you can perform for a longer duration of time. And in that small room, you will be able to do jumping jacks, but pretty soon when it gets hot enough in there, you're going to want to get out of there. So hopefully this helps you understand as to why performance on something like the Mac Mini with the same exact chip as a MacBook Air is going to do so much better. And that's why I got this base model, because I know that I don't need the Pro chip. Now, lastly, what I want to talk about is that should you buy the base model or the Pro model, or what things should you upgrade with the M4 Mac Mini? I think if you really want to upgrade something, it's going to come down to probably the storage. Simply because if you're someone that uses a lot of applications, then you're going to go through the storage pretty quickly. For example, like I still have about 120 gigs available, but I know I'm not going to need more than that. So I'm not going to eat into that storage anymore. And that's just because of Final Cut, Adobe Lightroom, and all the apps. Like, so with Mac OS and everything factored into it, I still have 120 gigs. The rest of everything is going to be on an external drive, which is the option that I took with my MacBook Pro, and which is always the option I choose to go for, because regardless of how much storage I buy, I know ultimately I'm going to run out. So I just choose to keep everything external, so that way I don't have to worry about storage. But as for the performance side of things, I think the only person that needs to get a Pro model is somebody that has a more intensive workflow than mine. But if you're just doing, let's say, content creation and simple video edits and photo edits and all of that, this base model is great. And what makes this even much more better is the fact that it has a smaller footprint now. So it can even fit on smaller desk spaces, or let's say you're using a small bedroom or an extra small space for your YouTube setup, then yeah, this is going to be a great computer. Honestly, everybody's scenario is different, like the kind of work you're doing, the kind of power you need and everything. So if you do have a particular question, then comment down below in the comment section, and I'll be happy to help guide you and figure out which M4 Mac Mini is going to be the right choice for you. If you've enjoyed this, please do give it a thumbs up. I will revisit this Mac Mini several months down the line, so I will give you an update But for now, I'm really happy. I'm really excited. This is a very capable machine. And at this price point, there's really not much to say negative about this. Thank you so much for your time. Take care, and I will see you in the next video.